The trumpets of Judea harmonize to a timpani, while the rains of war rage on. Under a red dawn, the abyssal Goliath stands firm and forth at the footholds of conquest, unopposed amongst his peers, the apostles to privilege and decadence. Drenched in rot and perfumed in villainy, the monstrous bane upon man sets scourge to our plains of plenty and drains the dams of treasury to impose a note of profane beggary amongst the burghers. As the ankles of our king remain shackled to the earths below, yet crowned and steadfast to bestow belief in freedom through fire. The bells that ring in his name bellow behind the cries of apathy. Rebellion seeps into the soil of oppression and wanes at the chains of tyranny. For the steps of the despots that march forth drum in the distance and quake at the scarce remains of welfare to whisper the rumors of calamity, dousing the flames of fury to arm and rebel, losing one's will in devotion to survival amongst an almighty symphony orchestrated in couth barbarity to reign over the rubbles of liberty. But, castled in with chaos as kin, the dynasty of villainy knows not of the swells spoken in crowds opened and opposed, yet shrouded in secrecy. For the offense of defiance taints any prospect of triumph, as the eminence of the giants dwarfs the vigor of those who are ruled by acquiescence. So the tales of a figure of courage, strength and defiance storm over the dunes of ruin and opulence with the eagerness toward violence for sovereignty. When the cries of aggression chant in march with the cavalry, the drums that impose a reticence cower under the flood of rivalry. Dissent is met with uprising, and fear is vanquished with the triumph of gallantry. David, convert of the layman and shepherd amongst believers, the gravity of his orbit pulls even the cowed into the herd of legionnaires. With angst and solace to loss and gain, the storms of war wail down upon the apostles of Goliath, and the boy who played the harp leads his cavaliers into the gutters of dissonance. What is freedom, if not earned with the abandon of honor? And what is war, if not suffered under the will of victory? Soothed to serenity, with the harmonies between desire and reality uniting, the altar at which the deacon of Lamb preaches at the foothold of liberty, drenched in devotion with the ripened wisdom of virtue, he now stands, sparked in fury, under the towering shadow of the tyrant Goliath army, ready for resonance. With the coffers of a kingdom at hand, he who stands in no one's shadow adorns the might of wealth and defense at his disposal. Equal in hubris, his men, zealots to supremacy, flock in formation under his haven of gilded gold plates and spears, ready to devour the will of the enemy. But David, wrapped in the robes of his people and veiled in their belief of victory, sees not the path of submission, but the pilgrimage of resistance. And with sword and stone in hand, the first blows of the intifada are heard with the cries of iron resonant in the deserts of vulgarity. Men drop dead in succession, and death pools over the sand, As mounds of marrow and steel pile high, the desert dunes grow. The east and west horizons rise and rest, while men swing and strike for immortality. No bastion of recovery is built on sunken ideals. So through the tusks of ivory, amongst the agony, the call for ceasefire is audible to many. As days and men have fallen fallow, the nights and despair have risen with life. Again, men drop in succession, and the tears of relief seep into the sand, and the gullies of sacrifice flow into the oasis of hope. The two kings now stand, one man on one man. Goliath, blithe with the bloodshed, untouched by steel or worry. David, bereft on one knee, awash with blood that be not his own, stripped from his sword, stands weary, with only his stone gripped in hand, and heavy with exhaustion. Two mortals who grit at the impasse to glory do not glee at the prospect of temporary reprieve. As their daggered stares whiplash with the eyes of rage and sorrow, the four corners to the kingdom of Judea come to close over the dusks of war. The marchings have ceased as prayers now lead in crusade, while the gale winds blow to the west and bank over the ills of pogromist suppression. Authority now wheezes in the midst of its suffocation. With a will as mighty as the giant Goliath, and hope still clung in his hand, the boy who played the harp thrusts his pleas of his people with one last almighty sling at the brittle defenses of empire, and cracks the symbol of control with a fatal blow to its temple. Victors in battle, the whispers of unrest now roar in relief, yet victims to the anguish of memory. The common sorrows of loss sanctify desires of peace over the desecrated plague of supremacy. The keeper, who once strangled the will of a kingdom, lay damned in the swill of despots, with one cheek flattened to the ground and the other under the boot of liberty. Crowned anew as champion and liberator, David consecrated his victory, unchained from the flames of fury, devout to the purity of his ideals. With the swing of a sword, he claims the head of villainy.